Welcome to Bike File with me, Wazza.
And me, Paul Johnston. This is the show that tells you all you need to know about the very latest machines for this year.
And on this week's show, we're looking at commuter bikes. We're going to be testing them for performance, style, value for money, and practicality. And at the end of the show, the one with the most points is the winner.
But before we take the first of our test rides, let's have a quick rundown on this week's contenders.
First up, we have the brand new Honda F650.
Next up, a recent recruit to the commuter market, the Moto Guzzi Breva 750.
Then we'll be testing the Sachs Roadster 800.
And our second Honda of the show is the Deauville.
Finally, we've got BMW's F650 CS.
Well, those are this week's runners and riders. On then to our first jockey, which is you this week, Wazza.
It is, and this is my steed, the F650. Question is, should it have been shot in the paddock or should it be allowed out to race?
Well, you know, I'm not really sure which stable this belongs in.
Hey, steady. Enough for your horseplay.
Yeah, because it's kind of, what's the point of it, really?
I'm not certain. I mean, couldn't you just ride your CB500 quicker or your 600 Hornet slower?
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? It's in that kind of middle ground that sort of doesn't exist, you know. So, well, perhaps all will be revealed, the point of it, when you've ridden it.
Let's hope so, and let's hope it's not a donkey. Honda's new F650 is targeted at Mr. or Mrs. Average and was designed to attract more European riders to the mid-size class with a bike that adapts to the rider's size and levels of experience. You've got to hand it to Honda. They really do seem to have a bike for every occasion. If you want a superbike, they've got the Fireblade. If you want to go touring, they've got the vast Goldwing. And even if times got really tough and you needed to deliver pizzas, well, they've got the Innova 125 for you. I could go on, but I'm sure you get the point. Even with such a comprehensive range, Honda aren't sitting back on their laurels. Instead, they're busily spotting gaps that are barely there and plugging them with new motorcycles. Now, you would have thought that Honda had the commuting market sewn up with the CB500 and the 600 Hornet, but it seems this wasn't quite the case. You see, some people thought that the CB500 was just a bit too weedy, but they also then thought that the 600 Hornet with its whole 100 horsepower was a bit too much. So Honda went and invented this as a halfway house. So you've got a seat and bar setup that can be moved around to make life easier for those a little short in the leg. A Hornet motor with a bit more mid-range, but 24 brake horsepower less overall. An optional fairing, 300 quid extra as it appears on our bike. Optional ABS, that'll be another £300 extra. All of this adds up to a bike that's incredibly easy to ride, anywhere from slow speed traffic weaving to open road bend swinging. But then excitement isn't what's meant to be on the menu here. If that's what you want, you should be looking somewhere completely different. What this bike should be about is being friendly, chirpy and easy to use. And on that front, it succeeds perfectly. Styling, 7 out of 10. It's completely inoffensive, but it's not especially stylish either. Performance, 7 out of 10. Absolutely perfect, as long as you're not looking for outright thrills. Practicality, 8 out of 10. Adjustable seat and bars earn extra points here, and it'll also handle motorways probably better than any other motorcycle on this test. Value, 7 out of 10. It's the second cheapest bike here, which makes it look pretty good, but it's still twice the price of a used CB500.
Welcome back then, Wazza. You described this as a friendly bike.
Very friendly, very welcoming, very inoffensive, just perhaps not very exciting.
Oh, you know, I thought you were going to say
Go on.
Boring then for a minute.
Almost, but I don't think that would be fair. I mean, if you've come from big fast bikes, you've ridden a lot, you may find this a little unexciting.
Yeah.
But I think if you've got that background, you wouldn't be wanting to buy one.
No, it's not meant to be. There's no point doing it down for something it's not. It's not meant to be. It does what it's designed to do, but it says on the tin.
Exactly. Succeeds just a little bit lacking in vibrancy, spark, character.
Character.
Sort of things.
Ah, now there's an important word. Character. You want to see something with character?
Yeah.
Well, step right this way. What do you know about these then, was it? A Moto Guzzi.
Moto Guzzi. Now, my granddad would know a lot about these. Hang on. Aren't they as old as the Earth itself?
They have been around since it seems like the year dot. But, you know, these are a bike with character, with a certain amount of style, transverse V-twin and all that, you know.
Bumps across to one side when you blip the throttle.
So it goes like that, like the BMWs. But, you know, not universally appealing, I don't think. Well, we'll give it a try and see what we think.
See what it's like.
The Breva is a recent recruit to the commuting stroke touring market. It only arrived in 2003 and has already won over a strong following. Since Aprilia's takeover of Moto Guzzi, the build quality seems to have improved. Until now, Moto Guzzi have never really had what you might call an ordinary looking bike. They've always been either a cruiser style or they've had a kind of classic racer look, usually finished off with a small bikini fairing up front. But they reckon this new 750 Breva represents the entry level now into Moto Guzzi ownership. Probably the most distinctive feature of any Guzzi is the 90-degree transversely mounted V-twin engine, and this one is a derivative of that used most recently in the 750 Nevada model. I think the style of this bike really is quite retro, and a quick walk round it has me thinking that it may well have been built to a budget. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It didn't do Suzuki's Bandit any harm all those years ago, did it? And I say that because of things like single disc brake at the front, pretty basic non-adjustable front suspension, twin shocks at the rear, kind of see where I'm coming from, although we do have a very useful shaft drive down there, which of course is a bonus when it comes to low maintenance. Having said all of that, the whole package works really well together. It's comfortable to ride and easy to manoeuvre with the bars set fairly high and wide. The seat is low at 790mm, so vertically challenged riders should have no problems at the traffic lights. So could you ride this every day? Could you live with it every day? Well, yes, you probably could actually. You'd get some weather protection from the little headlamp fairing there, and it's a very, very comfortable bike to ride. It's not exciting in any way, but I suppose if you wanted that, then you'd have to buy a sports bike. I think it does have a certain novelty value actually, and I think you'd be unlucky to pull up next to another one in the pub car park. For styling, it's 8 out of 10. You'll definitely stand out from the crowd on one of these. Performance, 7 out of 10. A reasonable motor, but the gearbox was a little notchy. Practicality is 7 out of 10. It might not look this good after a British winter. And value, again 7 out of 10. It's not the cheapest bike in this class.
By the sound of things, Paul, I'd say you quite enjoyed that.
You know, I did quite enjoy it. It's a nice bike, and I know I've kind of slagged it off a little bit for being a bit of a budget bike.
There's a certain charm, and I do think it comes from that engine.
Yeah, definitely.
That's left us both really rather enjoying it.
Nice. I don't know whether I could own one personally, you know, as an only bike, but great to jump on and have a bit of a blast.
And just have a potter about it.
Yeah, it's good. Nothing wrong with it at all.
So shall we head from one European oddball to the next?
Let's.
Because there's one just over there. And here it is, the Sachs Roadster 800.
Sachs, right. They're Austrian, Sachs, yeah?
They are.
Okay, that engine is a Suzuki.
Indeed, all the way from Japan.
Yeah. That front caliper down there is a Gramica.
From Spain.
From Spain, yeah. Tyres are Pirelli from there, Italian. So a bit of a mishmash, really.
It's got to be a very confused motorcycle. Hopefully it isn't. I guess there's only one way to see how all this lot mixes together, and that's to get out and ride it.
I think you should.
Now the Sachs is the second cheapest motorcycle here, so this has to count in its favour somehow. After all, commuters should be about getting a good bargain. Pay peanuts, however, and there's often a chance all you'll get is a monkey, which does suggest that perhaps this bike may be on the iffy side. First impressions suggest this may not be the case, however. Up front, we've got a nice set of chunky upside-down forks, 320mm discs, natty spoke wheels, and moving back, at the heart of it all, there's that nice 805cc chunky V-twin motor, all wrapped up in styling that's not going to set the world on fire, but in black and chrome looks kind of alright. So far this all sounds pretty good, but you hop on the bike and things can change a little bit. First of all, those clocks and the instruments all look fairly cheap, and also the bars are almost on a level with the seat. Not entirely, but it's a long stretch out to the front there, and it's not a very comfortable perch that the bike throws you into. Originally found in Suzuki's VX800, which was never the greatest of bikes, this motor now makes its way into the Sachs. Now, let's just have a listen to it. Well, I don't know how your idea of a chunky V-twin sounds, but to me, this sounds more like a ride-on lawnmower. And sadly, the riding experience doesn't get an awful lot better. It really is rather flat. Out on the road, I was doing my best to like the Sachs. I was trying to find advantages. I was trying to find out where its good points lay. I was struggling to find things. It wasn't terrible. It was going from A to B. We were getting on okay. And then the front brake packed up completely. That was the last straw, frankly. Modern bikes and freshly prepared test bikes should not behave this way. All I wanted to do was get off it, get back home quick. All of this adds up to a bike which, although it may leave your bank balance smiling, isn't so likely to do the same for you. There are some nice components in there, and the styling's not so bad either. But you put it all together and you're left with a package that as a whole is really rather uninspiring. I wouldn't be putting my money on one of these. Styling, 7 out of 10. From many angles, this is actually quite a smooth looking motorcycle for what it is, and it's certainly its strongest point. Performance, 6 out of 10. Adequate is about as good as it gets. Practicality, 5 out of 10. It's a bit difficult to get on with in town thanks to the length, and also it's not especially comfortable. Value, 6 out of 10. It is a cheap motorcycle, but there are a lot of better things you could be doing with £5,000.
Oh dear, 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 Wazza. What a shame. You're not happy, are you?
Don't get me started on this one. I'd like to be objective about it. As a motorcycle, it nearly works, and I didn't find it very exciting.
No.
But man, when that front brake disappeared halfway through riding it, I've had enough of this thing.
I think the least said about that, the better. And that is all for part one. At the moment, Honda's CBF600 and Moto Guzzi's Breva are in joint first position. But still to come, we'll be looking at Honda's Deauville and BMW's F650 CS. So join us in a couple of minutes to see how these stack up against the rest.
Welcome back to Bike File, where this week we are looking at commuters. So far, Honda's CBF600 and Moto Guzzi's Breva are sitting at the top of the tree. Behind them somewhere is the Sachs Roadster 800. There are 2 bikes left. One is the Honda Deauville. Paul, you're out on it next. Are you ready?
I am ready. Is it a Deauville or a Deauville?
Well, we could say who knows, or we could say who cares.
You don't like this. Well, I'd say you don't like it. You don't think it's exciting, do you?
I don't. I think it's a motorcycle for people who don't want a motorcycle.
Well, in that case, there is a lot of them people about because Honda have sold loads of these.
It's a depressing statistic, that is.
It is. I know it's a bit uninspiring to look at, but I'm sure it's all right. I'm going to give it a go.
Well, let's hope you can stay awake long enough, and I'll see you when you're back.
The Deauville started its biking life as a Honda Revere with a 600cc engine and a 5-speed box. Then in 1993 it was bumped up to 650cc's and its shaft drive made it extremely popular with dispatch riders. Usually, when you first look at a bike, it says something to you. It says words like speed, style, or aggression, whatever. Honda's Deauville says absolutely nothing at all. See? Nope, not a single word. The fact is, it doesn't need to. It's built by Honda, so there'll be no problem with reliability or quality of finish, and it won't fall apart and look like a bag of old tat when it's a couple of years old. If Mr. Sensible bought a bike, then this would be it. It's really just Honda's old NTV 650 with a new suit, although the motor has been refined and improved somewhat over the years. Still got that slightly lumpy feel to it, which we'd expect from a V-twin, but it's really not intrusive in any way. And it feels fairly responsive despite its quite modest 50-odd brake horsepower. The bike is equally at home cutting through busy town traffic or eating up the miles on long sweeping A roads. At 228 kilos it's not exactly a lightweight, but it does feel very well balanced, and it's a machine which is easy to ride well, whatever your level of riding ability. Couriers love these bikes because they are such a functional machine. Built-in panniers, for example, great bonus. They're not massive, okay, I know that, but you can get a couple of changes of clothes in if you fancy the odd weekend away. And more importantly, they do look part of the bike. They're meant to be there, not just stuck on afterwards. And if you're talking about weekends away and big mileages, we've got shaft drive, which of course means no more horrible messy chains. So it's over to the scoreboard. For styling, it's 6 out of 10. It's not the prettiest bike I've ever seen. Performance, 7 out of 10. No real power, but it will take you to work and back 8 days a week. Practicality, 9 out of 10. Built-in panniers, cubby holes in the fairing, and it's extremely comfortable. Value, 6 out of 10. It's the most expensive bike here today. Making a total of 28 points.
So then, Paul, you're still awake after your spell on Captain Sensible here?
Yes, I am still awake. It is Captain Sensible. It's a very sensible machine, as I said before, and I can see why couriers love them, you know.
Highly practical.
Very practical, panniers, cubby holes, all the bits. Comfy, all right, motor's okay. Trouble is, it gets you from A to B with no fuss. And I mean no fuss.
None at all.
Not at all. And the problem is, you don't really know what's happened along the way, because it leaves no impression on you whatsoever.
No, definitely.
Shall we ride something else?
Quick. Good idea. And here she is, the final bike in our quintet. It's BMW's F650 CS with a handy little cubby hole there for my helmet.
Very quirky looking thing as well, isn't it? Odd.
Quirky's being very kind, odd's a bit more like it,
Odd,
I think.
strange styling, big hole in the tank there, yeah. Funny styling down here, belt drive. Bit weird, really.
Strange colouring.
Yes, but knowing a BMW, I'm sure it all works very well under the skin.
It might.
I think it might. Your job to go and find out.
The F650 was a break from the norm for BMW. It was their first chain drive motorcycle and their first single cylinder to boot. On the surface, there are many things that are wrong with this motorcycle. First of all, there's the colour. I mean, in baby blue, this is starting to look like one for the ladies already. Then there's the styling itself, which seems to have taken most of its cues from the Doctor Who props cupboard. And then there's a hole where the petrol tank should be. But as we all know, judging a book by its cover is not a good thing to do. So let's look a little deeper. Starting with that hole where the petrol tank should be, it's actually a handy piece of kit for survival in the urban jungle because it takes BMW's own specially designed tank bag. And as for the styling, well, it doesn't get any better, but at least when you're riding, you don't have to look at it. Thanks to the high bars and fairly low seat, this is a bike that's very easy to get on with straight away, and it'll also give you bags of low-speed control in traffic. It's also a chunky single cylinder number, so you'll get plenty of low-down oomph when you want it, a moderate mid-range, and plenty of bum-numbing vibes if you want to spend any great time on the motorway. Handling is lively in all the right senses of the word, and those high wide bars that make town hacking such a doddle also make the little BM a right gas down the country lanes. Brakes are more than up to the job at both ends, and with BMW reliability thrown into the bargain, this little fella is just looking like it could be the joker in our commuting pack. Styling, 5 out of 10. In some eyes it's bold, in other eyes it's going to be hideous. Performance, 9 out of 10. It's perky, it's bright and it's plenty of fun. Practicality, 9 out of 10. It's well made, there's a good pillion, there's great luggage space and there's no messy chain to oil thanks to that belt drive. Value, 7 out of 10. Not the cheapest bike here, but well worth it if you can live with those looks.
Well, it might be a very odd looking motorcycle and it might not be a very nice colour, but that is a very good score.
It's a very good score, it's a very good bike. Really easy to get on with, loads of fun. I've just thoroughly enjoyed myself on it.
You have, haven't you? Some people though won't like the motor single cylinder.
You're right, bit thumpy, it's not necessarily going to be everyone's cup of tea, but if you can get on with it, I'd say you're onto a winner here.
Great stuff. Well, there's not much I can add to that except to say that that's all 5 bikes ridden now this week, so let's have a quick recap on the old scoreboard.
Well, that new Honda CB F600 acquitted itself very nicely, taking a respectable 29 points.
Then in came the Italian contingent. The Moto Guzzi Breva 750 scored also 29 points.
At the very bottom of the order, 24 points for the Sachs Roadster.
Then it was another Honda, the rock-steady Deauville, scoring 28 points.
But BMW's F650 CS pipped them both to take 30 points. All of which means it's BMW's F650 CS which takes the honours this week.
And I have to say, a worthy winner as well, was I?
Definitely. I'm not sure what I'm more surprised about. The fact that this came out as the winner, or the fact that we both agreed for a change.
Well, probably both. But I think we should say that we both actually like single cylinders. We don't mind big thumpers.
No.
For some people, the winner would probably be the CB F600 because that's a worthy machine, isn't it?
And also, if you needed to do the motorway, that is probably the better motorway bike here.
Yeah, but this is a good commuter, isn't it?
It's the winner for commuting, for fun, for getting on with. It's a clear winner. It's the one that's taking the honours today. That's the end of the show. Join us again next week when we'll have 5 more bikes, a load more arguing, and hopefully a clear winner at the end. Now, is it Deauville or is it Deauville?
Well, is it scone or scone?